I'm Matt, and on today's Matt's World DIY, it's berry season, so I'm going to make a delicious blueberry breakfast cake. It's so easy to put together, so let's get to it. Once your oven has preheated to 350 degrees, spread your walnuts evenly on a baking sheet, and you're going to toast these for about 5 minutes, or just until you can tell that they are becoming fragrant. The super amazing blueberry cake has a delightful streusel topping. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking 6 tablespoons of butter. We're going to cube that up to get that ready to start making our streusel topping. I'm going to cut this in half, and then I'm going to turn it and cut in half again, and I'm just going to cube that into smaller cubes. The first time I made this, I was totally blown away by how delicious it was, and I was like, this has got to go on the channel. So here we are. Now that I have my butter all chopped up, I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I'm just going to put it back here, and I'm going to take my scale out because I'm going to measure out some dry ingredients, and you know how I like to be exact with those measurements. So using a scale is going to give you nice, precise measurements. If you're not going to use a large bowl like I have for my stand mixer, you can put this in a medium-sized bowl and just combine all of your ingredients and then mix those up that way. I want to use the stand mixer because I recently had a birthday and some super sweet friends of mine gifted me this amazing KitchenAid mixer. It was kind of a blown away moment for me because they know how much I enjoy cooking and baking, and it's my passion, and I love this little side thing hobby I have. So they were totally like, we need to get this for him, and they did, and this is going to be my first time putting this big boy to use. So in my bowl, I want to put a half a cup or 60 grams of flour. I also want to put in 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. That's 66 grams. Put in 1/3 of a cup of packed brown sugar. I like to break it up in my hands just to kind of get rid of some of those rocks that you're inevitably going to have. I'm finished with my scale now, but I need to get some spices in here. To start with the spices, I'm going to give a little pinch of salt, or 1/16 of a teaspoon of salt. I need a half a teaspoon of ground ginger, a teaspoon of cinnamon. I've just taken my walnuts out because they were kind of toasting and I wasn't thinking about them, so that was not a good thing. But I've taken them out, I've put them on this nice cool cutting board so that they can cool gently. And I don't want to chop them up while they're hot, so I'm going to let them sit here and cool for the moment. So with my spices and my sugar and my flour in my bowl, I'm going to use my whisk and just whisk these ingredients up to get started. Then I'm going to set this on my stand mixer and get ready to incorporate the butter. My walnuts have cooled off, so I'm ready to chop them up so that they'll be ready to put into the sugar and flour mixture whenever I add that butter. With my streusel dry ingredients ready, I'm going to put the paddle attachment on this awesome mixer that I'm so fortunate to have. Raise that up and get ready to put some butter in it. So let's just start the mixer really low. And I'm going to gradually add the butter cubes to that. As I said before, you could do this by hand if you wanted to, but number one, I don't want to. And number two, I have this awesome gift here. I'm going to put some good use out of it, or get some good use out of it. So once again, that was 6 tablespoons of butter. So it started slow, it helped get things incorporated a little bit, and now it's going a little bit faster to help break down things. You don't want to add the nuts in until later, because the nuts, you don't want to break the nuts down too much. So at this point, the butter and the spices have been incorporated, broken down, and this looks good. It's a little sandy, a little pebbly, and it's probably going to get a bit more chunky, but that's okay. Whenever I'm ready to spread this over the top, I'll just break it down over the top of the cake and it'll be fine. So right now I want to add my chopped up toasted walnuts. And you can just do that all at one time. Raise that up and just mix it a little bit until it's all incorporated. Again, you don't want to mix it up too much. That looks good. I'm going to take this out of the bowl, put it in a separate bowl, and set it aside for just a minute. Did I say I was finished with my scale? Well, I was wrong. I was finished with it for the streusel, but now we have to measure for the cake. And to get started, we're going to start with some flour. So you're going to need 240 grams or 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You'll also need half a cup or 99 grams of granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm finished with my scale. I'm going to take and whisk these ingredients together just to incorporate everything really well. And now I'm putting the paddle attachment back onto the mixer because that's what we want to use to get this guy mixed up. In a separate bowl, I'm going to add my wet ingredients. I'm going to start with a half a cup of milk. I also need 1 large egg. No shells. Let's hope I'm successful because I should have put this in the bowl first. And that looks pretty good. A teaspoon of some really good vanilla extract. I got this vanilla off of Amazon. I'll put a link to it as well as some other items that I'm using in my recipe today in the description, and you can check those items out if you'd like. I also want to put the zest of 1 medium lemon. It's about a teaspoon of lemon zest. You might say, why are we using lemon? For those of you who are not aware, lemon and blueberries are like a match made in heaven. They just go together so super well. The lemon just complements the blueberry so much. And just make sure whenever you're zesting your lemon, do not get that white part of the lemon. That's the pith, and it's very bitter, and it's not going to bring a pleasant experience to your dish. Okay. I'm just going to whisk these ingredients together to get the egg beaten up, and we'll have it ready to put into our dry mixture. And that really good vanilla, I can smell it right now. It's amazing. To my dry ingredients in the bowl, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of softened butter. This butter is really super soft. It's not melty, but it's soft enough to make an impression when you push your finger into it like that. See? And I'm going to mix this until I get a nice sandy consistency of the butter with the dry ingredient mixture. If you can tell, my mixture now has a very nice little sandy consistency. The butter is perfectly well incorporated into this dry mixture. To my dry ingredients, I'm just going to pour all of my wet ingredients in at once, and I'm going to mix this just until it is combined. And then we're going to put those delicious blueberries in. Okay, I've got it to a certain point. I want to scrape my bowl down. This mixture is going to be very thick, so don't be alarmed when you're like, wow, that's a really thick. It's supposed to be thick, and there's a reason, and I'll tell you why later. Now, I know I started this video out by saying it's berry season and all that kind of good stuff about berries. If you have fresh blueberries, wonderful. Take them, put them in this dish. It's going to be a super amazing experience for you. I just happen not to have any fresh ones. I have a package of 2 cups of frozen blueberries. This is going to work out as well. I want to caution you, you put this into this thick mixture and that butter is in there, it's nice and softened. The butter will cool down and thicken up even more. Again, don't be alarmed. Everything's going to settle out in the oven. Just giving you a word of caution, you're going to experience something that is like, this is not working out, but it actually is. I'm going to pour all 2 cups at one time into my mixture and let that mix real gently, really slowly until it just comes together. And then we'll be ready to put it in the pan. You see how thick and hard this is now? If you're using fresh strawberries, it's not going to look like that. It will be a whole lot more pliable and smooth, but because I used frozen, it's cooled the butter down and it's made things a bit more solid. First of all, just get it all into the pan. What I've done is cut a sheet of plastic wrap. I'm going to place that on top, and I'm going to use it as a barrier between my hands and the cake so I can push this as evenly as possible into the pan, and then just remove the plastic wrap, and you have a nice even layer of cake. To the top of the cake, we're going to put the streusel mixture that we made earlier, and it's a lot, and it's so good, and it's just, I can't wait for this to be done. So get this into your 350-degree oven for approximately an hour. After about an hour and 10 minutes, I took my breakfast cake out of the oven and let it cool to room temperature. That took about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But now I think I want to do something a little special and make a confectioner's sugar drizzle glaze to put on the top of this. It's going to make it even more tasty. To make my drizzle, I'm going to use that lemon that I had zested for my cake. So I'm squeezing my lemon into the bowl so that I can just use this juice to create my awesome, delicious glaze. So I have about a cup to a cup and a half of confectioner's sugar here. I'm just going to add a little by little, I'm going to add some of this juice to my sugar. I'm starting with 2 of these tablespoons. If I need more, I'll add more. If I need less, I'll add more sugar. This is going to provide a nice tart, sweet topping for our cake. After all this time, it's finally time for me to cut into this cake and enjoy. I love the contrast between the tartness of the berries and the lemon glaze with the sweetness of the streusel topping. It just really makes it over the top delicious. Please do your best to make this recipe. I know your friends and family are going to enjoy it. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also check out some of my other sweets and bakes I have on my Sweets and Bakes playlist. I'll see you next time.